Good evening, everybody. The City of Peabody Zoning Board of Appeals meets remotely tonight in accordance with Massachusetts general laws and Governor Baker's March 15th, 2020 order imposing strict limitations on the number of people that may gather in one place, soon to change. This special meeting of the Zoning Board of Appeals will be conducted via remote participation to the greatest extent possible. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public adequately access the proceedings in real time via technological means. Individuals may participate remotely in this meeting via a participation platform called Zoom. Okay, so before we begin, we have some correspondences that we need to get into, accept for the record, and they are a whole bunch of them. We need to accept May 10th, 2021 Hancock responses to 42721 DPS, 42121 World Tech, 41921 Horsley Witten. 5/10/21 Hancock compensatory floodplain analysis. 5/10/21 Storm Scepter Mass water quality flow rate. 5/21 Hancock storm report. 5/10/21 Hancock revised site plan. 5/19/21 Mr. Will Pollitt's memo. 5/19/21 Chief Griffin memo. 5/21 draft flood response plan. 5/21 snow and storm management. 5/19/21 a Concom memo. 5/20/21 Hancock emergency access plan presented at the 11/25/19 meeting. And 5/21 Chief Daly's email with retired Chief 12/6/2016 remarks. I need somebody to, let's get these accepted into the record.
Motion to accept into the record.
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, Attorney Smolak, at this point, Carla McGrath is going to send out to you the latest correspondences, so you should get them momentarily.
Thank you very much.
Okay,
Excuse me, Madam Chair. I'm not sure whether the invites went out to the rest of my team because I don't see them on the Zoom invite. So I just wanted to make sure.
okay,
that
let's
those-
see.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh, Attorney Smolak, she never heard back from you. So who would you like her to invite?
That would be Michael Larkin. Actually, I just emailed to her. Oh, I'm sorry, I just received. Yeah, okay. I had just emailed Carla. It would be Michael Larkin, Joseph Pesnola, and Derek Roach.
You just emailed her now on that? That's why they didn't get invited.
Oh, okay, I misunderstood because I thought invites were all going out at the same time that I received mine. My apology.
Madam Chair, I see them in the attendees list. It looks like they're in the waiting room. They might just need to be let in.
Okay, am I muted? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, I'm all set. So Larkin and Roach, and what was the last one?
Pesnola?
Pesnola, Roach, and Larkin. I think they're, Michael. So now everybody can hear me. Dan? Okay, we're just playing computer tag here. Give us a minute.
Thank you.
Attorney Smolak
Yes,
is, where did you go? Oh, there you are. Is
I'm here.
Pesnola Hancock?
I don't see him.
Fran,
On-
yes, Fran, he works for
Oh,
Hancock
you are.
Associates.
Okay. So we have Michael Larkin, Hancock Associates, and do we have we have Roach?
Yes.
Okay, all right,
Yes.
so your team is here.
Okay, thanks, and my apologies on that one. Good evening, Madam Chair, and other members of the board. John Smolak, attorney with the firm of Smolak and Vaughn for 40 Oak Street Development LLC, are the applicant. With me this evening are Michael Larkin, principal of the applicant, Joe Pisnola of Hancock Associates, our project engineer, as well as Derek Roach of Vanasson Associates, our project traffic engineer. Since our last meeting on May 3rd, the project's team has filed supplemental documentation through Hancock Associates, including updated site plans and other materials. And we've received correspondence from Mr. Politz by memorandum dated May 19th, as you're aware of, with additional peer review letters, including the May 14th letter from World Tech and the May 18th letter from Horsley and Witten. With your permission, Madam Chair, what we'd like to do is briefly run through our traffic comments in response to the World Tech letter, and then proceed to have Hancock Associates run through its comments with on Mr. Politz's memorandum and other correspondence.
Surely, go.
Okay, thank you. So at this time, I'd like to turn the discussion over to Derek Roach of Vanasson Associates to briefly summarize traffic comments.
Hi, yes, this is Derek Roach. For the record, professional engineer and senior transportation engineer with Vanasson Associates. So we got the letter from World Tech, the May 14th letter, and there's only a few comments, a couple on the site plan, and then really just a reiteration of the mitigation contribution commitments for the project. As for the site plan comments, there's just a couple, like I said, there wasn't a crosswalk detail for the crosswalk that was added to the plan. So they just say that it should meet MUTCD requirements, which I'm sure Joe will go over in more detail that that it will. And that the sidewalk in front of the site was asphalt, and that it should be concrete. And again, I think Joe Pisnola will cover that in more detail as well. And then as for the mitigation, it's as in Will's letter. It's the $5,000 for the pavement markings and road signage at Oak Street and Winter Street, $65,000 for the pavement of the mill and overlay for Oak Street, $20,000 for sidewalk and curb extensions for Oak Street at Washington, and $15,000 for the bus shelters on Washington Street. And the other comments, the other responses we had given satisfied them because there was no other comments in the letter. So that wraps up the traffic portion.
Okay, thank you. Whoops. Who's next?
Madam Chair, next is Joe Pisnola with Hancock Associates.
Okay,
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board. Joe Pisnola from Hancock Associates. We did receive a letter from Mr. Politz dated May 19th and a letter from Janet Bernardo at Horsley Witten dated May 18th. And there's some, I think we're that much closer to resolving the issues. And I think at this point, it suggests that, you know, the remaining issues, and I think the letters kind of move the board towards this, is, you know, that these remaining issues could be handled on final construction plans, which is normally the case in a Chapter 40B, that final construction plans are submitted to the city at the time of building permit application or just before, and these remaining issues could be rolled into that. There were some some constructability or high point items. There's the underground, one of the underground systems is close to a property line. So Mr. Paulus was looking to see if we could get that to be at least 5 feet off the property line, and we can confirm that we can do that. One of the other ones was to increase the infiltration area, the size of the infiltration area in the front of the building by 27 chambers, and to try to keep that 10 feet off of the front property line. We did look at that, and we can get 20 additional chambers in there, and maintain the 10-foot separation. But I think that's the maximum that we can do. And again, this was a call from a previous comment by Mr. Paulus asking if we could increase it. We did increase it in the last round of drawing changes. And then he was looking, he must have seen that that maybe he thought there was a potential for even more of an increase in that system. And again, he thinks 27. We looked at it and thought 20. There's also some missing information with some of the existing catch basins on Elliott Place and Little's Lane. And again, we're happy to dive into that deeper with Mr. Paulus as we're developing construction plans. I think in some instances, we're going to need some help from Public Works to get out there and understand, maybe clean some of those catch basins out and understand the pipe connections out there. We're not changing any of that or proposing to change any of that except the final one, which we do have information for that ties into our system. Again, but we're really down into the very fine details of that would be more commensurate with full construction documents. There was also a call to looking for the draft flood response plan and snow storage plan, and we did send those over after the May 19th and May 18th letters. Essentially, the snow storage plan talks about control of the use of any sodium-based de-icing chemicals just to protect the environment, and also calls for the removal of snow from the site for any snowstorms that would impact parking spaces. So that outlines the snow management plan, and that would be given to the snow removal contractor, and the building management team would have that to enforce with that contract. The flood response plan is essentially what we've done is we've broken down the flood events, looking at various rainfall amounts into 3 categories. Nuisance flooding, which would be anything less than 4 inches of standing water in the parking lot for any period of time. Moderate flooding would be anything from 4 to 12 inches of standing water in the parking lot for any period of time, and major flooding would be anything over 12 inches. Essentially, what this response plan looks to do is to educate the residents and also put an action plan together for the building maintenance or building operations team. In the cases of forecasted moderate or major flooding, there would be actual contact made from building management to the residents, either by email or text messages at prescribed times prior to the forecasted flood event. And it calls for what the residents should do. In the case of moderate flooding, it would be voluntary removal of cars. In the case of major flooding, it would be mandatory removal of cars from the site. And as also included in there is a suggestion that Mr. Paul's made to have, in the case of major anticipated flooding, having the dumpster removed by the trash contractor, removed from the site and brought back after the floodwaters recede. That plan also calls attention to the emergency plan that we had put together back in November of 2019 that we shared with this board and the fire department with regards to, in the case of a major flooding event that also needed an emergency extraction from the building. And just to refresh everyone's memory, well, that plan has basically diagrams that show the positioning of the Peabody Fire Department ladder truck on Oak Street above the floodplain elevation, so outside of the major flooding, and showing that the ladder could reach to the front door. The front door, we had changed the internals of the architecture to have a center corridor with an exit at the front of the building up at the residence level that goes out to a patio. So that's above the theoretical flood elevation. So an extraction could be done with the ladder truck from that location. Again, that's in the case of major flooding, in which there's, again, theoretically there could be 6 feet of water on the property. It is important to note that we've looked at and studied the 25 flooding events that have happened over in the city of Peabody, major flooding events that have happened in the city of Peabody from 1886 to current day, looking at the rainfall amounts of each of those storms, some of the other aspects of those storms, whether they be tidal impacts coming up the river, and so forth, to be able to understand the different rainfall amounts that makes the different flooding events. And we believe in that by and large, we will be looking at the nuisance flooding and minor flooding. We've put some rainfall amounts and some predicted timeframes that those might happen. You know, the nuisance flooding might happen once every 2 years. The minor flooding might happen, you know, potentially between every 2 and 25 years, and then the major flooding is the statistical 100-year event that happens, again, theoretically once every 100 years. You know, it's important to note that the events that have happened recently, I think there was a photograph that was sent to the board from one of the city councilors of flooding in the parking lot at the Elks, and that we would categorize as nuisance flooding. There were cars in the parking lot, and it looked like it was less than 4 inches of flood water. Now, again, it's still quite a bit of water, but it's not one that will cause any damage to vehicles. It won't cause any damage to the building itself. And again, we don't call for necessarily relocation of vehicles in those nuisance flooding events. So I think that was important. I think it was something that both Mr. Politz and Ms. Bernardo were looking for. We provided that, but again, it was done after these letters came out. So we haven't gotten any feedback on that from either. Just wrapping back around to the World Tech letter. We again believe that these are these items that involve the crosswalks and the details and the stop signs and do not enter signs and so forth, is ripe for being handled at the construction documents. We would, as far as the sidewalks, I think that's just a labeling error we would be looking to do concrete sidewalks and keep everything out in Oak Street the same as it is, but obviously upgraded. Madam Chair, I think that's it. Happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you. Will, did you want to comment on anything at this point or no?
I certainly can if you'd like. I think Joe has hit on most points of our comment letter. I think, I mean, honestly, I understand the applicant's looking to address these at a later date, close to construction. I think there's a couple items we'd like to see addressed sooner. I think possibly a few of them could be addressed during the notice of intent process, but I think we would like to get more clear. I think a meeting with the applicant's engineer and our team, I think would clarify a few of our outstanding issues or questions that we have at this point. The first one being, we're looking for more clarification in respect to the flood plain and what's happening during the 100-year flood event. So I would hope a meeting with the applicant's team and us could get clarification on that offline. At the same time, we can get clarification on why they can't get the additional row of chambers in to see if we're in agreement with that. It sounds like the 10 feet they can hold. They can move the storm trap system off the property line, it sounds like. The next one's a pretty minor item. They said they were going to convert drain manhole A4 over to a storm scepter 900, but I don't think it made it to the plan. I guess it can handle prior to construction. We're just looking for clarification on some, well, actually, number 7, our item, I think addresses Oak Street, which I think is in line with our question in respect to the 100-year floodplain event. They could address the question we have on Oak Street at the same time, I believe, in respect to catch basin out there, the inverts that they're using. The next item we had was number 8 on our memo. We're just looking to verify that when they modify the drainage from Little's Lane through their property to Oak Street, that we don't have any, I guess we don't find out too late in the game if an invert won't work. We'd like to get clarification of what's happening out there in respect to that, though that could probably be handled during the NOI. I believe they agreed to it. It's just not on the plan. We're just looking to have any pipes in our public right of way to be reinforced concrete. We had a question for Hancock in respect to the double grate catch basin they're looking to drop on Oak Street. It looks like it's going to be a direct conflict with our drain line. Item 11, that's really up to the board. We recommend that the wetland flags be put on the plan at this point. Obviously, they need to file with the conservation. And then I believe most of the items in the Horsley Witten memo, Janet can speak separately on that, but I think they're either recommending them as a condition. They've either been addressed, recommended as a condition, or fall under the category of one of the items I mentioned for clarification. So I can go into further detail on any particular item, but I think a meeting with the applicant's team and our team would probably reduce our stormwater comments in half, probably at this point, if we met and had a better understanding on a few items. And I think most of the traffic has been addressed at this point. The applicant had originally suggested a certain amount of money per line item for the pavement and road signage on Oak Street, and then the milling and overlaying, and then the Washington Street bump outs and the bus shelter. We asked for additional funds. They came back with a compromise that the directors agreed to. So the funding that they're looking to provide the city were in agreement. So I think I think it just comes down to mainly stormwater, and then there's some conditions we're looking to have added to your approval if you end up to approve the project. So that's where we stand now. I don't know if you want Janet to speak on anything in particular, or Janet, if you have anything to add that I missed, but I think a meeting at this point would probably satisfy most of our comments, or at least get us to the point where it'd be very clear if we agreed with the applicant or not.
Okay,
Happy to do it, Madam Chair. It's set that up for as soon as possible.
Attorney Smolak, what do you think?
Madam Chair, I'm fine with that. I think a meeting will serve both parties well and to smooth out and resolve any outstanding issues with that regard. And so it's.
Well, so before I discuss that with you, I just need to know, is there anybody else on your team or on the city that would like to speak this evening? Does anyone, the members of the board, or does anyone have anything else to say before we take up a small little issue which deals with time?
Madam Chair, I guess maybe I feel like I should speak about something. Al Included from World Tech. I know that the developer had mentioned that the sidewalk that they do plan to making that concrete, since the design plans will be coming in later, or the construction plans, I wasn't sure if we want to have it mentioned somewhere in the decision or whatever that that's going to be concrete, or how we want to handle that. Just want to make sure it doesn't get forgotten about.
Could you just say that again, please?
Oh, sorry. The sidewalk in front of the site, it called out on the plans to be bituminous asphalt. However, we would like it to be concrete, and I think that they actually agree upon that. Since they aren't planning on having the construction plans till, further down the line, I wasn't sure if anything needed to be stated anywhere at this stage, just that it would be concrete, just in case, those plans are coming way down the line, if there needs to be some kind of reference to it.
I have my idea. Mr. Beals, do you have an idea on this?
Yes, I do. Thank you. I think this whole process is well served if you wind up with a final set of plans that everybody agrees on. And I've sat through a lot of these meetings, and a lot of details have been discussed. And I know this is a process that has continued for a lengthy period of time. And it'll probably go on for a lengthy period of time into the future. And I think it's critical that you have a final set of plans that has been reviewed and essentially approved by Will and Janet and World Tech, and everybody has signed off on it, so that a year from now, when somebody reflects on what was discussed, you just say, well, it's what was shown on the plans. And the more information that you have on the plans, the better the record is. And you can then cross-reference it in the decision. And I think Will was saying that some of these things should be added to the plan. And I agree with it, that the final set of plans that can be referenced in the decision is always a good idea. All of the requests that I've seen in the various peer reviews seem to be very reasonable requests, not overly burdensome. So why not just address them in the plans? I'd also say that the snow storage has not been reviewed. I didn't hear anybody comment on that. I know it was submitted, but nobody has reviewed it. There's also a flood response plan, which I think really should be reviewed, because it's a plan that's developed based on weather forecasting. And, I have a lot of anecdotal experience with weather forecasts, that sometimes they forecast extreme weather and it doesn't come to fruition. And likewise, there are some fairly benign forecasts that really wind up being catastrophic. So it's an interesting plan, but it's hard to develop a plan based on theoretical weather models that say this is how much rain we're going to have. And I'm curious as to what the contingency is that if you forecast a nuisance flood and it winds up being a catastrophic flood, then who's responsible for that? Or, you know, if I'm living in that apartment complex and I go away on a week's vacation and I'm told during my vacation that I have to move my car, how do I manage that? So you know, this is, in my mind, it's always been a big issue that this is a project proposed in a 100-year floodplain. And I think people really need to vet that plan to make sure that it is sound, is based on sound principles, and it's manageable. I don't believe there was a response from the applicant to the Conservation Commission comments. And it seems like my recommendation to this board is get some review comments on the snow storage and also the flood management. And why not produce a final set of plans that everybody's comfortable with, and we reference those in whatever the decision is made.
Thank you.
Madam Through the chair, if I could.
Yes.
Thank you. And my comment, if anything, is sort of a concern that goes along with Mr. Beals and reviewing the snow melt managed the plan and the draft flood response plan. I just want everybody to know that it has to be satisfactory to the board also. And I'll be legitimate. I've got some legitimate concerns that I feel need to be addressed. I don't want to drop bombs on the applicant to say they're going to go through all this, have all these meetings, and all of a sudden the board's going to say, well, now it's our turn to take a bite of this apple, because in my own opinion, there's a lot of apple to bite here. And I'm just going to give you a quick example. All right. The extraction issue. All right. Everybody will tell you when it comes to life safety, time is the biggest essence. And it's not going to flood just at this project site. It's going to flood the entire city of Peabody. So the ladder truck might not have a direct route from, let's say, central headquarters to the project site. It might have to traverse around the square, up Foster Street to Washington Street, then we have to wait for the truck to get there, bring a ladder across, and it looks like it's a pretty good way from the street to your patio, have a firefighter walk across. How much time is going to go before we even get to the person that needs to be extracted? And what kind of medical issue is it? So there's little things that need to be tweaked to my satisfaction. I know that. Some of the snow plans, I think Mr. Beals hit it right on the head. How much can we expect the project management team to police this thing? They're not police officers. Oh, you got to move your car. Really? Okay, yeah, thanks. I'm going to put the Bruins game back on. You know, how do we tell people what kind of snow melting material to use? All right. Yeah, the project might put it down on the public walkways and things like that. But what about the personal doorsteps and the stoops and all that stuff? Oh, sorry, you can't use that. So there's a lot of things that are concerns. I'm not saying we can't address them, but I don't want to drop a bomb on the applicants to say, all right, we went through all this engineering stuff. We've got all these reports. We've got all these plans, these draft plans. It says it's submitted to the ZBA for comment, I hope. And I don't want to drop a bomb on you to put you through all this work and then all of a sudden say, hey, wait a minute, I'm not satisfied yet. Just a thought. So if there's going to be meetings and there's going to be plans, you should sort of put a timeline when the board can put their comments into this thing.
Certainly. Thank you, Barry.
Through the
And
chair.
if I could just add one more thing to what Barry just said, is that I didn't mention that I also reviewed some pretty comprehensive letters by police and fire. And I think those are quite critical because it gets into the issue of public safety.
Right. Chief Daly, did you want to say anything tonight? I'm so happy that you joined us. Unmute. There you go.
No, just I echo Chief Pazin's prior comments. It is a more burden on our public safety response. And we're limited apparatus, and neighboring communities will probably suffering the same consequences. So one ladder truck isn't going to cut it for the city, and resources will definitely be thin. But it's a concern. But that's citywide, so it's not uncommon.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
If I may, through the chair, just to
Sure.
kind of piggyback off of what Barry said and going along that same theory and lines of not dropping bombs in, weeks or months from now, is that the little minutia details, I mean, they all make sense, and I feel like everyone can kind of work those things out a little bit. What I'm concerned about is the overarching theme seems to be, the overarching concern, at least from public officials, seems to stem from the overall size of the project. And it really feels like we're trying to fit a square peg into a round hole here, because everything's about how much, I know there's a lot of pavement now, but how much pavement there's going to be, the parking spot numbers, how many people they have to rescue or whatever else would happen, the size, overall size of the project. And, but what I haven't seen is any kind of suggestion about a number. Is it strictly because it's 80 units and 110 spots, or is there something else that's concerning? And if it is because it's 80 units and 110 parking spots, and that's the overall concerns, especially for safety and flood mitigation and fire apparatus and safety protocol, et cetera, then I guess the big question I would have that I can't answer, I don't think that any of us today can, is there someone from the city, whether it's fire, police, or whoever, that would be able to give us an idea? Is there a better amount of units for this project? Is the project better suited without those two townhouses at the back? They only add 8 units, but they take up a large amount of space that could otherwise be used for snow removal, snow storage, additional catch basins, or even a little green space, whatever it might be, to tighten the project, to loosen the project up a little bit. So that's just, I'm not saying one way or the other what my thoughts are and expectations are in the size, but it's a concern. I think that should be something that might be smart to address now between the applicant and the city officials.
Thank you, Stephen. Do we have any other comments at this point? Okay,
Fran, if I can ask Carla. Carla, do you mind pulling up that PDF I had sent over to you, Snow one?
She's going to.
Great. It's just a visual for the board to take a look at so you can have an idea. So that's the Hancock's plan, the pavements in that gray color. You can see the what's estimated as the bordering vegetated wetland or the isolated wetland, whatever it turns out being, on the Peabody Historical Societies in yellow. The 100-foot buffer to that is the red line. And then you can see that the blue, that's pretty much their snow storage outside the buffer. And then the purple is snow storage within the conservation's jurisdiction. So just kind of give you a sense of where they're going to have to put this, or the only place that they can put this snow. Just to kind of give the board a sense of what the project's going to be sort of up against in respect to snow removal.
Did you send this to Damon? Yes. Okay.
So I just wanted to.
Thank you.
I just wanted to put that out there just so the board had a visual of where they could be storing stuff.
Right. That was very helpful. So, Mr. Smolak, what do you think?
Well, Madam Chair, I think that a lot of good comments have come out today. I'm happy that the board has weighed in on a couple of issues that we can look at and address, as well as comments from the fire chief and the police chief as well, to attempt to address those concerns as well. And so while I agree that some additional details need to be added to the plan, I don't just agree that we need full construction details for the plan. For the reasons discussed previously, some of the issues will be addressed at the Conservation Commission level, but others can be addressed within the final plans with review by city officials or consultants. And so, but certainly, absolutely, I think that the next step would be to coordinate a meeting with Mr. Politz and his staff and consultants to resolve any other issues of concern. And then perhaps if we have a meeting with the fire chief as well and our consultants, maybe we could have a little bit more back and forth if time permits to discuss those plans in a little more detail to try to give the chief a little more comfort in terms of what our plan is.
Okay, so are you telling me this evening that you want to continue this another month based on everything that was discussed tonight, having a meeting with all the parties that need to meet and all the correspondences? Are you asking for to meet in another month?
Yes, and given that we just received 3 additional letters within the past half an hour or so, yeah, certainly we want to respond to those issues, addressing those.
So the correspondence from police and fire were just reiterations, basically stating the exact same thing that was stated a year or 2 years ago. So are you asking to waive constructive approval? The date that extends this period for 180 days ends May 31st. So if you
Yes.
need another month, I'm inclined to give it to you as long as you state tonight for the record and put in writing this evening in an email to Carla that you want to waive constructive approval. You need 1 more month to go over whatever it is you need to go over.
Well, yeah, well, certainly we'll provide the board the extension of the 180-day period, certainly.
No,
And-
I need for you to state that you are waiving constructive approval because that timeline ends May 31st.
Right, we by virtue of the fact that we are extending that 180-day period, that does waive that 180-day constructive approval issue. It's a
So-
guideline under the regulations, so that, as you know, that hearings are designed to take place within and be completed within 180 days of opening.
So you're waiving constructive approval.
Well, I guess,
John, Chair, could you just take a
Please.
moment to talk with my counsel offline for 1 second?
Sure, absolutely. How do you do that? I mean, are
I'm
you,
gonna call him directly. I'm gonna call him directly.
oh, okay.
Thank
Sure.
can you give us just one, maybe 3 minutes?
Yeah. Go ahead. Take all the time you need.
Sorry for the delay, Madam Chair.
It's okay. So,
So what we would propose is to waive the constructive approval period and also extend it for a period of 14 days beyond the next public hearing, and then request a continuance of that public hearing as well to a time and date certain. So in essence, given the board an additional 14 days beyond that period. And then for the next hearing, what we could do is consider what additional extensions might be necessary to finalize this process.
okay, so let me look at some dates for a minute. So could you say that again? So you've waived constructive approval. What did you say about 14 days?
Our intention would be to grant an extension of that 180-day period, 14 days beyond your next meeting, in order to give the board additional time beyond that next meeting if it thinks it needs it.
So
And
wait. So I was anticipating something like this happening, and so on June 21st would be the night that I would like you to come back after your discussion with everybody, and hopefully at that point we can all come to agreements.
okay,
So is that okay?
yes, and so if June 21st is the proposal, then we would respectfully request the board to grant both a continuance to the up and through the next meeting date, which will be June 21st at a time, place, and date certain, plus extend the 180-day period, waive the constructive approval and extend the 180-day period to 14 days thereafter, just as an accommodation to the board. If you want us to keep them on the same date, we could do that too, but I was just providing the additional time frame for the board if you wanted it.
Mr. Beals, what do you think? I mean, we're all set for June 21st. When the 14 days, what do you think?
I think you may need the time to draft a decision.
Oh no, but we're not at that stage yet.
Okay,
Because
then I think that's an accommodating schedule.
okay, thank you. Okay, so Attorney Smolak, just to reiterate, we've heard you state this evening that you're waiving constructive approval and you would like to extend tonight, basically, for one more month, which means we will come back together June 21st. I need you to put all that in writing to an email also to Carla. And hopefully between now and June 21st, you can get together, as was stated this evening, to iron out any little wrinkles that are still wrinkled.
No, that's fine. We'll do our best, and we'll have our project team work with Mr. Politz and with the fire chief if he has time as well. Not necessarily in the same meeting, but it could be. But we want to accommodate his schedule as well to work out any of those matters that are identified.
Okay, so I just would like to state for the record, and I'm not saying anything that you don't already know, but we have been listening to this since 2019. And at this point in time, I think giving you one more month should really be sufficient to iron out anything that could have, should have, would have been taken care of. I mean, if it doesn't, it doesn't, but I really hope that we can finally, maybe in another month, really get to some solution on this. Okay?
Our hope as well.
Okay. I need a motion now for a continuance to June 21st. Barry Osborne just changed the way he looked. Caught me off guard. I need a motion.
So moved.
All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, so board, June 21st, it's our regularly scheduled meeting. We are going to do that first, and then probably around 7:30-ish, we will take this back up. Any questions?
And that's in person, right?
That is in person. Yes, that's in person. I forgot. Oh, so everybody, it's in person. Smile. Come on, Julie. Smile. That's right. So Attorney Smolak and everybody else, who's Mr. Beals, whoever, we will be at 7 o'clock in the Wigan Auditorium at City Hall in person with balloons and the marching band. So there you have it. Anything else? Okay, let's hope that we are moving this train really forward in another month. I believe at this point we need a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Excuse me,
What?
Madam Chair, I'm sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
Did you all vote to continue it to the 21st? I thought,
Yes,
I
we
didn't know.
did.
Okay,
Yes, yep,
okay, thank you.
you're welcome. I need a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Good night, everybody. Thank
Thank
you
you.
very much. We will see you. Let me see. Next weekend is a holiday. June the 7th is, we're not meeting. So I will see you all June 14th, which will be our last Zoom meeting. Okay, board. Thank you. Good night.